I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about psychology and true crime. This is a very sad situation, and most states do not allow conjugal visits. So, a conjugal visit is where an inmate is able to have one on one time with their domestic partner or spouse. And there are a lot of calls for these visits to maybe have more supervision because at the same prison last year, there were two deaths. So, two women were, certain words I can't say, um, but they were unalived by their spouses during a visit. And the way that the visits were done, it sounds like they were off-site at an apartment complex, and they were given 30 to 40 hours. So I wasn't even aware that the visits could be that long, and it was called family time. That certain people usually and it's my understanding that sometimes in like a maximum security place, they are not going to allow those types of visits. Normally, the inmate has to be on good behavior, but in this case, and the individuals that are have been charged with the new crime, they I know at least one of them was in jail for prior uh unaliving people in the past. And it's just, wow. I'm going to head over to the chat just to see. Welcome, welcome. Thank you all for being here. Like I said, and the fact that it was two at the same facility. So these two individuals might have messed up family visits for everyone else. And I wouldn't be comfortable with guards having to oversee, if they're I don't know. I don't know how I would feel or how the inmates would feel if everything was being recorded. I don't know. It's just because I was trying to see what type of security was already provided during those visits. And it sounds like in one of the cases, it might have been provoked or instigated. So the spouse might have went to the visit with the plan to tell them that they've been incarcerated for they've been incarcerated for a really long time. I think 20 years, and they weren't up for parole for another few years. And so the family really wondered if they went into that visit to try to end the relationship. And we've talked about unsafe people and unsafe relationships. One of the worst things you want to do is do that in person if this person has a history of being violent in the past. And it sounds like in both of these cases, and this isn't to victim blame, this is just to give information. This is just because sometimes people are like, oh, but I love them. And they miss some of these warning flags and these red flags in these situations. All right. So I'm going to make myself small because there's a news article that talks about this case. So let's listen to this. And I have all the links down in the description.
Exclusive investigation. We reported first last week the November death of a woman at Mule Creek State Prison during a conjugal visit with her husband was ruled a homicide. And now we're learning another woman was also murdered during a visit with her husband at the same prison a few months before that. Both deadly incidents taking place at the Mule Creek State Prison in Ione. That's in Amador County. KCRA 3 investigates Lizzie Mitri spoke exclusively with that woman's family.
Curtis, this family saw our investigation last week after the murder of 62-year-old Stephanie Dowles, and they said they felt compelled to come forward with their story.
We were born and raised in San Francisco. We were raised by our grandparents. And this is just a little collage of her life.
Janine Rojo and her cousin weren't just close in age.
We've literally been together since birth.
They did everything together until July 1st, when everything changed.
It's just tragic what happened.
Her cousin, a single mother of one, died.
Tanya Vanessa Corpus Thomas, she was 47 years old.
She says Thomas spent more than half her life battling lupus, but the family learned the disease is not what killed her.
For her to to be taken away this way. It's gut-wrenching.
The Amador County District Attorney tells KCRA3 Investigates Thomas's husband, 48-year-old Anthony Curry, is charged with her murder.
Oh, it hit my gut.
He's accused of strangling Thomas during a conjugal visit at Mule Creek State Prison. Court records show Curry was already serving time in prison for a conviction of attempted murder following the 1999 shooting of his 19-year-old girlfriend at the time.
He shot a girl in the head and dumped her body, so he left her body for dead.
She was found at a remote truck stop in Richmond, barely alive. A gunshot wound to the head left her permanently blind and partially paralyzed.
He's a violent person.
Rojo says she had no idea her cousin even had conjugal visits with him.
With that history of severe violence, why are they being allowed to have these visits unsupervised?
It's something she kept to herself until she saw the story on the November death of 62-year-old Stephanie Dowles.
4 months after a woman died while visiting an inmate at Mule Creek State Prison, we've learned her death is now deemed a homicide.
Another woman killed at Mule Creek State Prison during a conjugal visit with her husband, a 4-time convicted murderer.
I was sick to my stomach and I was in tears.
She could no longer stay silent.
I'm not against conjugal visits. However, there's already 2 murders at Mule Creek. What can be done to prevent this from happening again? Maybe put more prison guards out to do more safety checks, to anything to save another life.
The CDCR website shows inmates can't have conjugal visits if they're on death row, convicted of sex offenses if they're going through the reception process upon arrival to a prison, or if they have disciplinary restrictions. But there is no mention of violent crime convictions. CDCR says inmates have to apply and meet strict criteria to earn the privilege of family visits. And they say these visits are meant to support family connection and rehabilitation.
Okay, so a lot of people would say 1 murder is too many, 2 murders, way too many. What security measures are in place to protect people who are there visiting?
Right, we had to go through their manual to see what do they do, how do they make sure people are safe. What we could find is inmates have to present themselves for a count at least 4 times in 24 hours, and the prison can order unscheduled inspections, but otherwise the manual really highlights that they try to ensure the inmate's privacy.
But we know about a second case because the family came forward. How many other cases are there that we don't know about?
Right. And we have asked the corrections department and they responded to our inquiry, answering everything except for that question. So we followed up and we are hoping to hear back from them soon.
All right, Lizzie, thank you. And while the November death was ruled a homicide, Stephanie Dowles' husband has not been charged with murder. The prison says it is still investigating.
Okay. Super, like I said at the beginning, super sad case. And for the second case, and it sounds like that it was a death. And let me see if there's been any updates with any charges for Stephanie Dowles. Let's see. Because that one occurred back in November, and her husband was already serving a life term for convicted on 4 murders. And so, wow. I'm just trying to find this information. Okay, so a call came in at 2:04 a.m. to say that his wife had passed out, and officers attempted life-saving measures and called 911, but she was pronounced deceased. Super sad. And so he's saying that she passed out. And we will see if any charges come forward. Because for the first case for Tanya, her husband was charged. For Stephanie Dowles, it does not look as though charges have been filed. I agree with the idea of an alarm button if someone is unsafe. Um, and often especially it's the same facility, it's a second incident that's occurred at the same facility. I hope they don't. Like I hope, because sometimes with investigations they have to make sure that they are thorough. And he's already serving life without the possibility of parole. He's already serving life without the possibility of parole. They're likely not going to allow any additional conjugal visits. And there are convicted murderers that are allowed to have conjugal visits. Mama bear, it sounds like people think like it's a right, like it's something, but to me, like if you've committed a crime and you're going to be incarcerated for 20 years, 30 years, 5 years, however long, then maybe one of the things that you can't do is you're not able to have conjugal visits. There are family visits, so I've watched some like true life prison shows where they have like a family area where kids can come and there are guards watching. They often have to sit across from each other at the table. Some allow physical contact, but um, I- what I don't think will happen is I don't think that there will be like cameras, because that could cross into privacy. I don't know. That would be a bit uncomfortable, I think. I don't know. Like that's just my own personal thoughts. Y'all can let me know what y'all think in the chat. Because I don't think the guards should have to be like watching, seeing like what all's happening behind closed doors. Cause there would probably be let's say even if they had cameras, there would probably be a space where that wasn't secure, that where there weren't cameras. And so if somebody wants to do a crime, they can find a way to do it. Um and sometimes people work hard to try to earn it. So sometimes the ability to have face-to-face visits or the ability to earn certain privileges within a jail setting, because we talk about rehabilitation. So helping the individual prepare to succeed, like if they are going to be able to leave, or even if they're incarcerated for life, still that conditions aren't so inhumane that people have learned helplessness and kind of give up. And so I think that's why they're offered. But wow. Wow, wow, wow. And it sounds like, because if they were getting those visits, there were likely no incidents of violence for a period of time, at least within the jail. And that's where I wonder if they got into an argument, if something happened, or if they were suspicious of, like, if they were jealous. Or there's some people that view their partner as a possession. Like, if I can't have you, or like if I can't be with you all the time, or they have no impulse control and no anger management. And so, yeah, um, it really, really is sad. Good afternoon. Thank y'all for being here. I was planning to cover the Hannah, I think it's Hannah Landon. Y'all know I'm bad with names. Um, she also goes by Bannock. I was planning to cover that case. I did not see video coverage of it, and so I will continue to keep an eye out for updates on that case. The victim's name was Bella, and so I'm going to continue to keep an eye out on that. I did see that Jody Hildebrandt is big mad at her lawyer, or she filed. I don't know if it was an appeal, but she filed paperwork to complain that she didn't understand what was like the I don't know, like the court process, that her lawyer didn't properly explain everything to her, and so it seems like she's trying to get released earlier. But Jodi Hildebrandt, for anybody that doesn't know, her along with her business partner Ruby Franke, they were arrested after one of Ruby's children escaped from Jodi's home, where there were two young children that were being starved and were being physically, psychologically, spiritually, they were being harmed in every way possible. And one of them escaped to a neighbor's house, and that's how they were able to survive that situation. And both Ruby and Jodi are incarcerated, and they do come up for parole every so often, because of the way that the way that the system works in their state. They're eligible at certain times. I have no knowledge if any of those, if they've come up for eligibility yet, because there's no set amount of time that they have to serve before they're eligible to go before the board. I do personally think, and I kind of just my own personal thoughts, I kind of hope that they will serve a long period of time. But Jodi is complaining about her lawyer and trying to be released earlier. I don't think it's going to work because the judge asked, did the judge ask all those questions? Do you understand? Do you realize? Do you like the judge asked, do you understand what you're agreeing to? And so I don't know if anything will happen to that on appeal, but we will definitely keep an eye on that. I've also been watching because there was a civil lawsuit against Jodi, Ruby, and Connections. And because I think Connections is still a program that exists. I don't think it should. Um, I think the Jodi Hildebrandt's teachings were incredibly harmful based on what we now know and the information that we now have. And so often in any cult like group or in any high demand, high control group, there will be aspects that make sense that maybe, yeah, that really would enlighten someone, that really would be positive. But there's always these aspects of like control, manipulation, dominance, um, and that ends up not being healthy. And so I personally don't think of that. So let me pull up the Hannah Landon trial, because she also goes by and so this is trigger warning, okay? Like this is trigger warning for this case, because it is super sad. It's out, I believe it's out of Louisiana. Let me see if I can find a picture. Let me see. Do. Everything I open keeps opening up videos that start playing. Here we go. So let me share this tab, make this bigger, and then so this case involves the death of a 6-year-old. Super sad case. Let me make myself small. There we go. And so Bella Fontenelle, and I apologize if I'm saying that wrong, but she was 6 years old. And the individual that has been charged with her death is Hannah Bannock Landon. It's Bunnak. And this incident occurred back in April of 2023. She is accused of same manner of death that we talked about with the other cases that we covered today. And surveillance footage shows Hannah walking with a bucket on a wagon and placing and um, trigger warnings. I've already said it a bunch of times. Bella's body was in the large plastic container, and Hannah allegedly placed that bucket on the birth mother's steps. So Hannah was dating Bella's father, and the allegation, what she's alleged to have done, is to have placed this on the child's body, deceased body, on her mother's porch. And that's beyond sad. We do believe that she might plead not guilty by reason of insanity. She had to do multiple competency evaluations, and we talk about competence to stand trial. That comes up with Lori Vallow as well. And competence to stand trial is just, you know who the judge is, you know, like your lawyer, the prosecutor, you're cooperating with your legal team, and you understand the court process. So an individual could be psychotic and still be able, as long as they can be. Now normally if they're psychotic and like they're actively hallucinating, hearing voices, if they're in a delusional state where they believe they're a god and the laws don't apply to them, and if they're actively saying that, if they're actively saying the judge doesn't have any power over me, I don't have to listen to what the judge says, those individuals are likely going to be um placed in a mental institution where forensic psychologists work with them to restore competency. If competency can be restored, and sometimes that requires medication, there's a lot of therapy, but if competency can be restored, then they end up facing their trial. So it's my understanding that she might plead not guilty by reason of insanity. And the big deal with insanity is you have to understand that, or you have to not know that, like, have such a break with reality that you didn't understand that what you were doing was wrong and illegal. And often consciousness of guilt stuff comes up, where if the individual tried to hide the crime, they lied about it, they tried to hide evidence, all of those things are often a sign that a person understands that what they did was wrong. The forensic psychologist, because there will likely be an expert that says, yes, the person did understand right from wrong. They do not meet the criteria for insanity. And there might be a defense expert that says, yes, this person does suffer from a significant mental health diagnosis. And due to that diagnosis, they were unable to understand that their actions were wrong. And so we will see what happens with this case. My heart breaks for, especially as a mom myself, my heart breaks for Bella's mother, to discover your child that way, and then to know that it's your ex's girlfriend, and like it's just ugh, like that's just super sad. And so I do hope for justice for Bella in that case, and I'm gonna keep an eye on that one. Um, I'm also just continuing to watch the Karen Reed trial updates. And so they keep going back and forth with court stuff. I'm also keeping an eye on it's Donna Adelson, her trial, and all of her updates. Tanika with Tanika's 2 cents keeps giving us great updates with what's going on with Sarah Boone. I don't plan to cover any of that, unless there's something major that happens. But I watched Tanika's updates over there. No, yeah. And and just so we all know, crime in the United States has been trending down, okay? Because sometimes, especially for my true crime lovers, it feels like, oh my gosh, it feels like these things are happening more and more. But what's happened is that true crime is kind of popular and people like hearing these updates. A lot of these trials post COVID, they are televised, or like it's streamed and broadcast, and we're able to follow along and watch. And so please know that, because sometimes it can increase anxiety, it can increase people feeling on edge. The reason why I cover these things, the reason why I talk about it, is so that we can recognize red flags and signs. So if somebody is going to break up with their partner who has a history of verbal, physical, psychological, if they have a history of being unsafe, I wouldn't recommend doing it face to face in like a closed setting where there's a potential for harm. Like people, they always have to make sure that they're managing their safety first. And I wonder sometimes during those visits, if like conjugal visits, if they take the person's cell phone. I don't know, like, if the room door, like, are they able to exit the room door, for safety? I don't know if they can. So I've been in juvenile detentions before, so jail, but it was juvenile detention is different from, like, a jail, but it looks the same. And while I was in there, I couldn't physically open the door. There would be a camera in the room, and I would have to wave at the camera or like stand up and get the attention of the person in the control room. And they would push a button for, me to be able, or for like somebody to come. Let's say I had a question, or if the person I was doing psychological testing with, if they needed to use the restroom or get lunch or something like that. I was not able to physically open the door. I don't know how they do those visits. Like if the door, if they're if the people inside doing the visit, can they freely open the door and leave? And for security and safety, maybe they can't, but I would guess and I would hope that there would be some type of way to alert the staff that's monitoring everything if there was an issue. I would guess there's a phone because for the second case, it sounds like the inmate was the one that called to say my wife has passed out and that they needed medical attention. But it's just super duper sad, super duper sad. Um, uh, all right. Recognizing red flags, so, so important. And I think it's important that people know about stories like Gabby Petito. And it breaks my heart. Uh, so Netflix has a documentary about her story that's mostly because I think Brian's family didn't Brian Landry, I think that's the name. His family didn't really participate in it, and so it's mostly from Gabby's perspective. And you get to see her blaming herself for making him mad when really I don't think there was anything she could have done because his temper was so easily provoked. Her breathing could have set him off. She was, in my opinion, not in an emotionally, physically safe um, relationship, and it was one that was just filled with control, but him trying to control her and dominance. There wasn't that equality and respect that I look for when people are in relationships. And so I'm glad that people can see and hear the behind the scenes because they had a YouTube channel that she did the editing, like she did the recording and she did all of this. And there were behind the scenes cuts where from watching it, your heart just breaks for her because of the way that he's talking to her, the way that everything is happening. And I don't know if the cops knew that there was another witness that saw Brian hit her because that was the initial phone call to police. And even if they did, there's some people that believe like, oh, this is just a lover's quarrel. Like sometimes we minimize that's that things that are actually harmful. And it's just super duper sad. Super duper sad. Um and and I think the family thinks that she was planning to leave. And it was super, super duper sad. Jessica, I want to look at your comment. I interviewed for a teaching position at a juvenile detention center. During the interview, several of the kids got into a huge fight. Yeah, very uncomfortable because the interviewer, uh, yeah, 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 that and when they have those fights, sometimes all you can do is, like, try to alert. Because if I'm the only adult in the room and a big fight breaks out, because if I try to get into it and help break it up, the kids could all turn on me. So you first have to maintain your safety. Now, and then I was always trained that if an individual is fighting, you always try to get the attention of the person that's losing to get them to try to like separate. Often the person that's like feels like they're winning the fight, like the person that has more of the control or power, they're often not going to stop. So often if you can try to get that the person that if you can try to get them safe, that can help. But mm, I appreciate you all being here. Let me know in the regular comments if there are cases that you all would like for me to cover. These are the ones that I'm keeping an eye out for. There are additional links if you wanted to dig deeper into this case down in the description. There are a few different articles and things, but I appreciate you all. I went to the grocery store earlier and I forgot, like, because so my son is gonna have macaroni and cheese with hot dogs, and I forgot to buy the hot dogs, and so I need to go back to the store. But I appreciate you all. I will see y'all next time. Bye.